So Ash would hear of Surge and would be excited, and he would say, finally, trainer who treats these wimpy Pokemon trainers right, finally. And after that, Ash would make his way into the gym. He would then meet Surge and would commence with the battle. It would be a one-on-one. Ash would use his Ivysaur, while Surge would use his signature Raichu. Ash would start off with a powerful takedown to do decent damage. Raichu would resist the attack and would respond with a Thunderbolt, which would surprisingly do a lot more damage than Ash thought it would. After that, Ash, undeterred, would command for a Razor Leaf. Surge would be very amused by this, as he would retaliate with a Thunderbolt, hurting the Grass Tartar a decent amount. Ash, realizing what was going on, would say, Ivysaur, how pathetic can you be? You have the type advantage and you're losing. Get yourself into shape right now. Ivysaur would be stunned by this and would get working 10 times harder. When Surge called for a Thunderbolt, Ivysaur would make sure to dodge and would hit with a powerful Vine Whip, which actually did do some damage. Ash would smirk and would think, good, now let's beat this dumb electric mouse. Alright, use Razor Leaf. Razor Leaf would hit Raichu, doing a lot of damage since it would be a critical hit. Surge would say, oh wow, so you think you're winning, huh, kid? Now let me show you the true power of Raichu and Surge. Raichu, Thunderbolt! The Thunderbolt would hit Ivysaur, paralyzing the Grass Tartar, doing a lot of damage. She'd say, oh really? I thought you were actually a decent Pokemon. Should have chosen another Pokemon. Kick myself in the leg on that choice. Ash would stand there not wanting to give the Pokemon commands anymore, feeling it's disappointed him. Then Ivysaur would see this. It would get angry and annoyed at itself for letting down its trainer, and an aura would appear around it. Its bulb would begin to glow brightly, and it would awaken its overgrowth. Bulbasaur, with this newfound power, would be able to absolutely dominate the rest of the battle. Bulbasaur would be hitting Razor Leafs after Vine Whips with such speed and precision and ease, it would shock Surge to the core. But in the end, Surge would try to match everything up with a powerful Thunder, but Ivysaur was having none of it, as it would charge up a new move with its bulb, and it would blast it. That move would be Solar Beam, while Raichu would blast its powerful Thunder. Both attacks would collide. It would be a beam clash like in Dragon Ball, both Pokemon pushing each other back. But in the end, Ivysaur would win, giving Ash the gym battle and the gym match. Surge would say, kid, you're rather strong as a trainer, but let me tell you something that you lack. If you really want to become very strong, you need to care about your Pokemon. I remember when I used to be just like you, but when I joined the army, it made me realize that the world isn't so black and white. Pokemon and trainers need to work together and be friends. Understood? I'd say, I thought you were better than all of those weak crybabies who love their Pokemon. Guess I was wrong. So Ash would just walk out in disappointment. After that display, he would decide that he wanted to train his Pokemon a bit more. He would send out Mankey, Ivysaur, and Beedrill. He would be willing to train all three of them so they could become incredibly strong. They would do a lot of training. For Mankey, physical training. For Ivysaur, Ash would try to harness its overgrowth. And of course for Beedrill, since Ash should know that it's not a good Pokemon at all. It's not as strong as the others. It'd be trying to work on its poison thing so it can poison enemies. After a whole bunch of physical training with Beedrill, Mankey would evolve into a primate and would become incredibly stronger, which would make Ash incredibly happy. After that, Ash would decide to continue personal training with Ivysaur and to harness its Ogre ability. All of the others would have harnessed more, but Ivysaur wouldn't. Ash was making Ivysaur suffer a lot. He wasn't giving it any break, any water, anything to help it rest, just forcing it to train. But during the intense training, Ash would spot a Spearow. Think finally, a new flying type having that pathetic Pidgey. As Ash would command for Ivysaur to use a Razor Leaf, and Ivysaur after its intense training would be so strong that even one leaf would weaken Spearow so much that the Pokeball would just, that when Ash threw the Pokeball, would just catch Spearow instantly. Ash realizing what he's dealing with currently, he would send out Spearow and would instruct it to train with Ivysaur. This would be an intense training, with Ivysaur beating it down until Spearow became stronger and was able to resist. This would be an intense training session, pushing both Pokemon to the limit. Then, when Ash began to see a green aura flow around Ivysaur, he realized that he had done enough and would smirk and return both Pokemon to their balls. He would then arrive in the SSM, where he would find a gentleman like normal. The gentleman would battle with his Raticate against Ash's Spearow. Spearow would attack with an Aerial Ace, while the gentleman would attack with a Quick Attack. The attack of both Pokemon would be quite even in the battle. After that, Ash would begin to notice Raticate's weakness. It wasn't that fast, so Ash began to use Aerial Ace after Aerial Ace mixed with a whole bunch of Fury attacks. And after that, Ash would easily defeat Raticate. From the battle, Spearow would evolve into Fearow, which would amaze Ash and the gentleman both. After that, the gentleman would say, "Wow, you seem like a very strong trainer. Would you like to feel the Pokedex? Blah blah blah." Trying to scam Ash into trading Fearow away. But this time, Ash would say, "How pathetic can you be? Trying to get somebody else's Pokemon because you know it's better than yours. Why would I trade one of my strongest Pokemon for your pathetic Raticate? Do you take me for a fool?" As the gentleman would walk away embarrassed after Ash basically told him that he shouldn't scam people. After that, Ash would make his way to Saffron City, where he would make it into Sabrina's gym and would battle the possessed woman, since she was under the control of the doll or whatever, I forgot. Anyway, Sabrina would send out her Abra, while Ash would send out his Ivysaur. This would be a very even battle. Ivysaur would start out with a takedown, which would do a lot of damage. Then, on the second turn, Abra would teleport away. After that, Ash would use a Razor Leaf, which would do a lot of damage to Abra. After that, Abra would use a Confusion to blast away Ivysaur, which would do a lot of damage. Then, Ivysaur began to notice something. There was a telepathic link between Sabrina and Abra, and Ash would notice this too. They would keep the battle going, but then after that, Sabrina's eyebrow began to glow as it would evolve since the psychic bond had strengthened. After that, Ash would realize how much stronger Kadabra has gotten and would decide to go full on against Ivysaur. Against Kadabra. He would command for a takedown, but the more psychic connected Kadabra would teleport away simply. And then Ash would command for a Razor Leaf. And only one leaf would hit Kadabra, barely doing any damage. But that was just what Ash wanted, as most of the leaves went up to the ceiling and broke it. This would distract Sabrina, which would temporarily break their psychic link, which would give Ash the idea to finish it off with a powerful solar beam, winning him the battle. After that, Sabrina would fall to the floor, screaming, as the curse, whatever happened to her, was breaking. Since it wasn't as naturally as it was in the original, like they didn't make her laugh, I think it would be a bit more painful. And then Ash would walk up to her, uncaringly I would say, "Give me the badge." But then Sabrina would quickly stand up and say, "Sorry for that, I would give Ash the badge." After that, like in the original timeline, Ash would be very rude to Erika and the other woman, which would cause them to lock him out of the gym and ban him. In this timeline, Ash would call on Primeape to, force his way through. Yeah, that's the nicest way I can put it. So basically, Ash would say if they do not let him in, he will release Primeape on them. Of course, Ash would be serious, but he would know that they would let him through if he said that. So with the woman shaking, they would let Ash through. And then Erika would say, what are you doing here? I thought we locked you out. Then Erika would realize, wait, did you force your way through here? Erika would get angry and would say, if I wanted to, I would call Officer Jenny to go and deal with you. But you know something? Let's just have a gym battle. You are Pokemon League Challenger after all, so let's go. Erika would use her Tangela as Ash would use his Primeape. After that, Ash would command for a Mega Punch and a close combat to do a lot of damage to Tangela. Tangela would command for a Sleep Powder, which Primeape would barely avoid, as it would then finish it off with another Mega Punch. After that, Erika would send in her Weeping Bell. Ash would think, oh, this won't be much. Everything will be over very soon, as he would command for Primeape to destroy Weeping Bell with a close combat. But after taking such punishment, Weeping Bell would poison Primeape and catch Ash off guard, which would annoy him slightly. After that, Ash would say, alright, finish it off with a Mega Punch, irritated, and Primeape would do just that. After that, Erika would send in Glue, as the smelly plant would attack Primeape. This would be a very close battle because of the poison. Primeape would do a lot of damage to Glue with its fighting type moves and Mega Punch. But the thing was, the poison was whittling down Primeape. And then Glue would simply use a Solar Beam which would destroy Primeape, giving Erika the win for that short scuffle. After that, Ash would send in his Fearow. Fearow, the moment it got sent in, it was over for Erika, because Fearow just used one Draw Peck and it was over. After that, Erika would give Ash the badge, and she would tell Ash, "You're not you treat your Pokemon too badly." She would be unable to master words since she was angry that she lost to somebody like Ash. She was like, you treat your Pokemon like tools. You shouldn't treat them like that. If that Primate was truly your friend, I can tell you, it would have won that battle without any problems, I should say. And who asked for your opinion? Just give me the badge already. Erika would reluctantly give him the badge, with veins popping from her head. And then Ash would just quickly leave with a smirk on his face. And for the Pokemon Grand Prix will pretty much go the same, except no Team Rocket, and I think that Primate would beat Anthony. So yeah. So basically, when Ash made it to the Fuchsia gym, he would battle Koga, and he would start off with Fearow against Koga's Venomoth. This would be a very close aerial battle, but in the end, Fearow would win, since it was the more experienced and had the type advantage. And after that, Koga would send in Crobat. Crobat would use a Drill Peck against Golbat's Swing Attack. This would do decent damage to both sides. This would be a long back and forth Aerial Ace versus Aerial Ace. But after that, both Pokemon would be damaged. So after that, Fearow would attack with an Aerial Ace and would then damage Golbat quite severely. Golbat would be unable to fly, giving Ash the perfect opportunity to use a Drill Peck, defeating Golbat. This would shock Koga, as he'd never seen a trainer fight so dirtily and so angrily. After that, Koga would give Ash the badge. After that, Ash would just make his way out, where he would go, and this time without Team Rocket there, he would just dig and would collect a certain peculiar fossil. After that, Ash would get the fossil revived, would then add it to his team. He would go battle Blaine with the new fossil, which would turn out to be a Kabuto. Kabuto would use a Surf to gain a quick win against Ninetales. After that, Blaine would send in his Rhydon. Blaine would use an Earthquake to disorientate Kabuto, and Kabuto would strike back with an Aqua Jet, which would do a lot of damage. But then, the more experienced Rhydon would then use a Drill Run to damage Kabuto a lot. After that, Kabuto, from sheer determination, would begin to glow as it would evolve into Kabutops. But as Kabutops went in for the finishing Aqua Jet, the more experienced Rhydon would easily avoid it and whack Kabutops onto the boiling mountain, which would burn the Pokemon, making it faint. I know that sounded brutal, but yeah, that happened. Ash would then return his Kabutops, and then would send in his Ivysaur. Ivysaur would just simply use one vine, and it would be over. After that, Ivysaur would begin to glow. Its bulb would glow into a full flower. Its size would grow bigger, and the leaves would grow much bigger, as it would finish its evolution into Venusaur. After that, Blaine would send in Magma, and Blaine would say, "Are you sure you want to keep that Pokemon in? You still can use another." I should say, "I'm sure I can." This Pokemon is very strong. Ah, you're the one who should be worried, as Ash would smirk. They would say, oh, we'll see about that. Alright, use Fire Punch. Magma would come in to use a Fire Punch, but Venusaur would avoid it, which would shock Blaine, since he'd never seen a Venusaur with such speed. After that, it would continue attacking. It will continue attacking Venusaur. Magma will continue attacking Venusaur. It will keep avoiding the attacks, as Magma wasted its energy. But Venusaur would keep retaliating with takedown after takedown after Razor Leaf after Razor Leaf, which would whittle down Magma. This would be Ash's strategy, knowing that if Magma landed a single attack, it would be over for Venusaur. So then, Ash, seeing that Magma was tired, would command Venusaur to use a Solar Beam, which would give him the battle. After that, they would say, wow, you're too brutal to your Pokemon. Even I, somebody who's not a grass type expert, could see that your Venusaur wasn't very happy with you. It didn't actually like you. I could tell that there was something wrong when you were commanding that Pokemon. I didn't feel any sense of affection like I usually feel between trainers and their Pokemon. I just felt seriousness and sadness within it. If somebody who is the opposite of a grass type trainer can tell that there's something wrong, you need to work on your Pokemon training, Ash Ketchum. And then Ash would say, who asked you, old man? Just give me the badge already. As Blaine would reluctantly give Ash the badge. After that, on his way home to Pallet Town, Ash would encounter a pack of Growlithe training. He would see them all duking it out, and he would wait for them to knock each other out. And after that, there would be one left standing, and Ash would take the opportunity to catch it, saying that it is probably one of the strongest Pokemon that he's ever seen in its first stage, as he would make his way into Pallet Town. After that, Ash would meet his rival Gary, talking to his grandfather about Pokemon and how they're doing. And then Ash would say, wow, I haven't seen you in a while, Gary. Gary would say, oh, hello, Ashy boy. Let's see how strong you are now. Probably still as pathetic as ever. As Ash would say, oh, we'll see who's the pathetic one. Gary would send in his Dodrio as Ash would send in his Fearow. Both Pokemon would duke it out. Dual Pecks would be traded between both sides. Aerial Ace would be traded between both sides. But in the end, the airborne Pokemon would prove to have more of an advantage, as it wouldn't have to jump to be airborne. And after a dual Peck clash, Fearow would be crowned the winner of the battle. After that, Gary would send in his Golem. Ash would say, oh wow, rock type. What a good choice. As he would look at Gary with a sneaky look in his face. This would unnerve Gary, but he would still keep his bravado up as he would say, Ash, it's over for you. So, Gary would command for Golem to use a rollout to attack Fearow. But Fearow would just fly up in the sky and avoid the attacks, and whittle down its enemy with Dual Pecks and Aerial Aces. The enemy would try hitting the flying bird, but it would never be able to hit a single move, as it would be too high in the sky. This would annoy Gary and Golem both. And then, when Fearow let its guard down, Gary, all he had to do was just land one rollout, which would disorientate Firo, and then it was over for Ash. Gary would just command one rollout, which would knock out Firo, giving Gary the win. This would annoy Ash, saying, "Oh my god, you dumb Firo, how could you let your guard down? In a battle, your enemy is your enemy. No matter what's happening, you should never let your guard down." Gary would notice how rough Ash is with his Pokemon, but would keep quiet. After that, Ash would send in Primate. And then Primate, with simply one well-placed Mark Punch, would defeat Golem. After that, Gary would send in his Nidoking. Nidoking would go up against Primate. This would be a very even battle. Mega Punch being traded between both sides. Aerial Aces being traded between both sides. Large bombs. Yep. It would be a very, very even fight. But in the end, both Pokemon would be tired. And then Ash would call for a Mega Punch and Gary would call for a Mega Punch, which would knock out both Pokemon. After that, Ash would send in his Kabutops, meanwhile Gary would send in his Nidoqueen. Ash would say, "Oh wow, you really like the Nidos, don't you?" Gary would say, "Yeah, I like them. They look cool, don't they?" And Ash would say, "Yeah. Anyway, Kabutops, Aqua Jet." This would hit Nidoqueen, which would do a lot of damage, but then Nidoqueen would be spawned with a dig, or be hidden on the ground. Ash wouldn't know what's happening, but then out of nowhere it would come out and hit Kabutops for a lot of damage, which would shock and annoy Ash. Ash would then call for a Hydro Pump, which would do a lot of damage, as then Nidoqueen would use a double kick. This would push both Pokemon to their limits, as then both trainers would call for one final attack. Dig on Ash's side, Aqua Jet on Ash's side and double kick on Gary's side. Both attacks would collide, knocking out both Pokemon. After that, Ash would send in Beedrill as Gary would send in Arcanine. Gary would say, "Oh wow, what a very smart choice, Ashy boy." Gary would say that sarcastically. And then Ash would say, "Oh, we'll see about that, Gary," as he would still be smirking, which would kind of put Gary off. After this would be a very close battle, even though Beedrill has the type disadvantage. Ash would call for a Poison Jab, which would poison Arcanine severely, which would shock Gary, as he knows that attack doesn't have a very high chance of poison, not knowing that Ash had done some very intensive training to get that kind of stuff inside Beedrill. So basically, Beedrill would be hovering all over the battlefield, whittling down Arcanine with poison and strong bug type moves. But after that, Arcanine would get angry and would hit Beedrill full force with a Flame Wheel, knocking it out. But Ash, unlike the other Pokemon, would not be angry or frustrated at Beedrill, as he would be smiling. This would put off Gary, as Gary would think, "This isn't the Ash I know. Something's happened to him. Is it that battle that happened all those years ago between that boy with the Dodrio and the Charmeleon? Ash said that he was really inspired of that battle. Is that what made him become like this?" Gary would be shocked at Ash's behaviour, trying to figure out where it came from. Ash would then send in his Growlithe. And then, seeing this, Gary would further try to keep up his bravado, saying, "Oh wow, Ashy boy, you didn't evolve your Growlithe, huh?" And then Ash would say, "Just got it, but I can tell it's gonna wreck your Arcanine." This should put Gary off. And Gary would say, "Oh, we'll see about that. Alright, Arcanine, Extreme speed. This would shock Ash with the powerful speed, knocking Growlithe back. But Growlithe would then use a takedown on its evolved form, which would do a lot of damage, as the poison would inflict Arcanine. This would be a close back and forth battle, shocking Gary that a Growlithe could go toe to toe with an Arcanine. And then, when both Pokemon were almost down and out, both trainers would call for moves. Ash would call for a newly learned move that Growlithe had just learned from seeing Arcanine perform Extreme Speed, as Gary would follow suit. Both Pokemon would charge into each other, knocking each other out. After that, they would send in the starter Pokemon. And now this is when the real battle would begin. Blastoise would look at Venusaur, and Venusaur would look back. This would be very intense, and the trainers could tell what this battle was going to be like. Venusaur would charge him with a takedown, doing a lot of damage, as Blastoise would respond with a powerful ice punch, which would do a lot of damage back. Ash would command for a Razor Leaf, which would do a lot of damage to Blastoise. Blastoise would command for an Ice Beam that Venusaur would avoid, which would annoy Gary. Ash would then command for a Vine Whip, which would grab Blastoise and slam it all over Pallet Town, which would annoy Gary very much. Don't worry, there's no collateral damage. They're just doing it inside the woods. That's where the battle's taking place. So, after annoying Gary a lot, Gary would say, "Alright, use Ice Beam full force." This would hit Venusaur for a lot of damage, since it was super effective. Ash would then, still smirking, call for a Razor Leaf, which would do a lot of damage on Blastoise. After this, the battle would go on for a very long time, as it would get intense, as both trainers would be giving it their all. The battle would get so intense, in fact, Venusaur's would begin glowing. A green aura would envelop it as its flower would grow green, as its eyes would be covered in a lime green colour. Gary would be shocked that Ash's Venusaur is capable of overgrow, as few trainers are able to awaken that ability within their starter Pokemon. Ash would then command for a Solar Beam, stating that he wants to finish this off, as Gary would command for a Blizzard, trying to take down... Actually, no, he would command for an Ice Beam, trying to take down Venusaur. Both attacks will collide. It will be a very hard struggle between both powerful attacks. But in the end, the winner would be Venusaur, as the Solar Beam would overtake the Ice Beam with ease, knocking out Blastoise. Gary would fall to his knees, shocked and angry, saying, How can I lose to someone like you? I've always been better than you. I've always been the Pallet's #1 young trainer. How? And then Ash would say, "You always teased me and mocked me when we were younger, saying I would never amount to anything. Because you're Professor Oak's son, you thought you would be the best and do whatever you want. And now I've shown you that you are just as good as everybody else. How does that feel, Gary?" Ash would stand there smiling. Gary would stand and say, "But I got to admit, that was a good battle full of class." And then Ash would say, "Hey, you know something? Give me the Firestone." This would shock Gary. Gary would say, "Wait, what do you mean by Firestone?" And Ash would say, "The Firestone you used to evolve Arcanine." And then Gary would reluctantly give Ash the Firestone, and Ash would send out Growlithe. And he would say, "Growlithe, tap this." Growlithe would know what was going to happen. I would not want to evolve, saying in Pokemon talk, it didn't feel ready. But Ash just wouldn't care and would say, "Evolve already!" Growlithe, pressured, would press this tone and would begin to glow. Alright, that's it. I'm sorry for the audio not working on the last video. I hope it's working now. Yeah,